The game jam Lodum Dare 52 started on January 6th, and participants were given a theme and they have to develop a game within a certain amount of time. The game jam has 3 different categories that you can participate on, and I of course went for the compo. So I had 48 hours to develop a game from scratch. If you guys been following this channel for a while, then you're probably thinking, yeah, he'll be alright. Once the theme was announced, I started brainstorming and it didn't take me that long to settle on this idea.
My soul!
Harvesting souls, inspired by Samhain, an old Celtic tradition that marked the end of harvest season and beginning of winter. The Celts believed that the veil between the living and the dead was especially thin. This allowed spirits of the dead to visit the living. Perfect for harvesting souls, right? I have never developed an FPS game. I have always thought of the genre to be incredibly overdone. So this was going to be my first FPS game. I began by designing the level and importing it into my project with its collider enabled. Now I only had to make the enemies spawn at the bottom of the map and move towards the top. The player controller was very easy to code using physics, and on top of using WASD to move on all directions, you can press E and Q to go either up or down. To tackle harvesting souls, I decided that rather than running into them, it would be much better if we shoot at them and then drag them towards the player for harvesting. One of the first tutorials that I uploaded on YouTube was of Overwatch hook ability, so I was quite familiar with this mechanic. Needless to say, it took me very little time to code it again. Now that I had a way of harvesting souls and also a way to lose if too many escaped, I added a counter on top and coded in the conditions. There is no win condition though. Instead, I will add a counter to keep track of your souls harvested, and this will act as kind of like your high score. Try to beat it every playthrough. I added a main menu and smooth transitions, then day 1 was pretty much over for me. On day 2, which is the last day by the way, I focused on polishing the game and did not touch any of the main mechanics. I began by creating the wall shader. This shader blends in 2 textures and then I add 2 more textures on top of that. These ones are black noise though. Add some speed to it and play around with the transparency, then you have this very cool wall that looks like it has some souls trapped in it. To mark the darkness, I added a black particle effect at the bottom and created these glowing rays at the top. Add a post-processing effect to the level and boom. It looks pretty damn good, right? For its UI, I thought it would be a very cool idea to display the chains that you shoot on the side of the screen. I created a new shader for the chains and I gave it a very bright color to contrast from the black of the map. The player can use up to 4 chains, and whenever you use one, they disappear from the UI and reappear once they return to you. For harvesting souls, I added a fire at the bottom of the screen that will burn these souls to harvest them once they return to the player. For me to give it a cool burning animation, I first needed to create the souls. Enter this very low poly skeleton without its legs I made super quick, and gave it 2 animations. One with its hands behind his back for when it's flying upwards, and another one for when it is being dragged by the player. We need to blend in the souls to the walls. So I created a new shader that can be dissolved to act as kind of a harvesting animation. Then I quickly put together 2 visual effects. One for when you hit an enemy, and another one for when you hit the map. I was running out of time, so I started a few playthroughs and found out that the player can just stand still and shoot. There was no point in moving, so I implemented this very long ray that rotates towards the player, and if the player is inside of it, it completely blinds you. Well, I mean, not completely, but it makes it very hard to shoot souls. After that, I just needed to create the sound effects, get a copyright-free ambient sound, and I was pretty much done. If you want to play it in your browser, I will leave a link down below. I love joining game jams, especially Lodum Dares, because afterwards people always give you feedback, and more often than not, there are over 1000 participants. That is it for this video. Thanks to my patrons for making these videos possible, and thank you for watching.